What propulsion did early Civil War submarines use? Imagine trying to sneak underwater during a time when technology was just beginning to understand how to move silently beneath the waves. Early Civil War submarines had very simple ways to get around. The most famous of these was the Confederate submarine called the H.L. Hunley. It used a manual hand crank system to propel itself underwater. This meant that a crew of 4 men turned large cranks connected to a propeller shaft. As they turned the cranks, the propeller spun, moving the submarine forward. This method was straightforward but required a lot of physical effort from the crew. Other early submarines, like the American Diver, experimented with different propulsion ideas. Some tried to use small steam engines which could run a propeller. But steam engines had big problems. They produced exhaust gases that needed to be vented, and that was impossible underwater. So, they were not practical for submerged travel. Electric motors were also tested, but at that time, they were weak and unreliable. The batteries needed to power these motors were heavy and didn't last long. Because of these issues, manual hand cranking was the most dependable way to move a submarine during the Civil War. It was slow, often only a few knots, but it allowed the vessel to stay hidden and maneuver close to enemy ships. These early submarines also used ballast tanks to help them dive and surface. They would take in water to sink and expel water to rise back to the surface. Their armament usually included spar torpedoes, which were explosive charges mounted on long poles. The crew aimed to ram these charges into enemy ships for an attack. Overall, the propulsion systems of Civil War submarines were simple but effective given the technology of the time. Manual cranking was the standard because it was the most reliable and safe method available. It allowed these early vessels to operate underwater, even if only for short distances and limited time. These innovations laid the groundwork for future submarine technology, which would eventually include more powerful engines and electric drives. But during the Civil War, it was all about turning those cranks and staying stealthy.